We're going to talk about why we say language is sticky. Hello and welcome to Input English. This episode deals with the stickiness of language, specifically how the human brain grabs onto words and phrases, making them seem very sticky. To give you an example of sticky, if you write a letter and you send it through the mail system, you take it to the post office and mail it to someone, you need a stamp. And you put the stamp on the letter, and that stamp sticks to the letter because the stamp is sticky. Okay? But metaphorically, that is, so to speak, words seem sticky. When groups of people, or just a few people, talk to each other, they gradually start talking like each other. They adopt similar expressions, similar pronunciations, and you see this everywhere. This is useful to humans because it helps us form groups. Whether that group is a family, or a community, or a region, or a country, our ability to speak like each other allows us to identify with each other. So words, the stickiness of words to the human mind is a useful tool. When we talk to each other, we use little words and phrases of affirmation all the time. It keeps the conversation going. So in our mind, let's imagine that you are talking to me and telling me about something in English, and I'm an attentive listener. I'm interested in what you're saying. As you speak to me, I might say, sure, or really, or you don't say, or wow, or I can't believe it, or oh, me too. So that list of things I just gave you is not a vocabulary list for you to write down and memorize. Wow, 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 wow. No. This isn't a vocabulary list. Those were just illustrations of little expressions that we use in human expression to keep conversations going. The reason I bring this up is I'm telling you a story, and this is the foundation. This is the information that'll allow you to understand the story. When I was living in Austria, I spoke and listened to, conversed with the Austrians in our department, in the restaurant, on the street, everywhere. And they use words of affirmation like what I just told you in English, but they did it in German. And so it was very common for us to be talking, and the German-speaking Austrian person would say, ja, sicher, ja, sicher, sicher, ja, sicher. And this phrase of affirmation would come out a lot in a conversation. They would also say, ach so, Ach so, ja sicher. So this was something they did. When they talked to me in English, instead of saying ja sicher, they would say, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. They translated it into English. When I got back to the United States and talked to my friends and coworkers, I automatically used, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Talking to people here in the United States, and occasionally someone would stop me and say, why are you talking like that? It's the stickiness of the human mind to language. I was not doing it to impress anyone. I was not doing it to be funny. I was just doing it because it was automatic. Now, I was never at a very high level as a German speaker. My studies in high school were relatively ineffective, and the comprehensible input that I got during the months I lived in Austria were finite. I came back to the United States reading the newspaper, understanding it mostly, watching television, understanding it, depending on the content. But then that became rusty. That I didn't use it, I didn't hear it. So that has gone down now. And I do not claim to be fluent in German. No. A few years after I got back from Austria, I met a lady from Germany with a thick German accent. So I thought, why not? So I spoke with her briefly in German. Just simple language, just a little bit. And she laughed. I thought, oh no, I've made some horrible error. She laughed and I said, what? And she said, you have an Austrian accent. Well, my heart melted because that was a high compliment that my pronunciation was good enough that she could recognize it as actually having a regional accent. She could have said, you have a terrible flat American accent and I can barely understand you. But instead she said, you have an Austrian accent. It was fantastic. It wasn't because I'm great, it's because the human mind grabs onto sounds and words and phrases. Language for us is sticky. And if you hang around somebody else for a period of time, you will start talking like them. Could that be useful to us? Yes. That is another description of comprehensible input. That is what we are doing. What I'm telling you is that you can use the stickiness of language because of the human mind. And if you hang around with me and other native speakers, you're going to start talking like us. When I was young, our neighbor had a parrot. And the parrot would repeat what it had heard. You know about parrots. They just repeat what they hear. And the owner of the parrot had a funny European car with a peculiar car horn. And when he would get home each day, he would beat the horn. After a while, the parrot was beeping like his Mercedes. Super. And we've all heard stories of parrots saying profanities. Also, children. If the parents say things and the children hear them, the children will repeat that in school. These are all illustrations of the stickiness of language. And this is something we should rejoice about because it's in our evolution, it's in our very substance that we latch on to languages. I just described comprehensible input in part through this concept of the stickiness of language. If you hang around someone and you talk to them and listen to them, you will talk more and more like them, and they will talk more and more like you. It's fantastic. The stickiness of language. So, I invite you to think about this, put your comments below. If you have any concerns or questions, put them in the comment section. This is a language learning community. We're here to serve you, and I need your input. I hope you join us in future videos. We'll see you later.